My name is Brooke Finney. After many years being involved with first aid and first response, I was accepted into the Georgian College as a paramedic student. Prior to my current education, I worked as a first responder in other avenues, and it was working as a ski patroller that it solidified my desire to hate others. Throughout my first aid career, I've gathered many certifications, including First Responder, HCP, which is Healthcare Provider, being a lifeguard, a Marine First Responder, and multi-casualty incident training. Other such certificates like this have allowed me to provide the best possible care for my patients. Over the years, I have been involved with many volunteer opportunities. Most recently is with the Ray of Hope non-for-profit organization. It is a soup kitchen and community center that allows me to work with youth at risk who need someone more relatable to talk to, someone a bit younger than the average counselor. This allows me to give back in other avenues and also share experiences that I have and aid other kids in becoming the best people they can be. I'm a charismatic and amicable person. I find it easy to converse with many people over a variety of topics. I care about my patients and I have a desire to give back. I put 100% of myself into everything I do, every day. Whether or not that 100% is the same every day, it is everything of myself that I can put into my job. As I said earlier, I have the ability to converse with multiple different people over a variety of topics. I do consider this a strength of mine, as not a lot of people can do it, and we meet a lot of different people within this kind of career path in this industry. I love learning and I've enjoyed it my whole life, and this has allowed me to gain a bit of a worldly perspective. I'm outgoing and I enjoy learning about others. This allows me to create those conversations that can keep people occupied in the back of an ambulance or keep their mind off what's happening to them right now. I'm an outgoing person, and I would categorize my outgoing nature as another strength. I'm willing to put myself out there, and I'm the first to volunteer for a job or task, whether or not it makes me uncomfortable. One of my major weaknesses surrounds my ability to take criticism. I will take it well, and I'll act upon it immediately, improving my performance on the job, but I have a hard time internalizing it and reconciling my failure with my ability to improve. I am a bit of a perfectionist, and I often infer that I'm just in trouble, and I have trouble accepting that failure. It is a flaw that I'm constantly trying to improve on. Another weakness that I would have would be my nature to take charge. Some would view this as a strength, but as it is have its strengths and the ability that I can take charge and I will lead when the situation calls upon it, in group situations, I find this a bit of a weakness. I have a little bit of trouble accepting group leaders, and this is usually in groups of 3 or more. I always want to be in charge, and I often have a little bit of trouble stepping back and actually allowing someone else to take lead. I never let this, or I try not to let this, affect my job performance and affect the group outcome, but I'm not always 100% successful. I do work best in pairs or on my own, but it is another flaw or character flaw that I am constantly improving on. In this industry and this job, loss is a part of life, and we see it more often than any other industry there is. I've recently experienced a personal loss with the death of my grandmother a couple weeks ago, and it's actually significantly changed my outlook on how I deal with death and loss, and also how I view it. It's been actually a very good experience. If it's a patient of mine, I always try to reconcile it that I've done the best I possibly could for my patient. Every intervention was done, every care was taken, and I genuinely wanted them to live, which is human nature. If I can reconcile that and I know I have done the best I possibly can for them, then I can be satisfied in the knowledge that it just wasn't their fight to win and they're in a better place. I feel like I would have a lot of trouble if I wasn't able to reconcile that. if I felt there was another intervention that could have been done, or I felt we could have been faster. And in that sort of situation, I'm all right with going into seeking help and seeking someone to talk to, or help with that reassurance that I did do everything I could. It is a hard topic to think about, and it's a hard topic to reconcile. But I do know that it is part of the job. And sometimes you have to think about that very clinically and remove the emotional aspect. I am not shy, as I said, about seeking help, and I recognize that there are mental challenges that can be faced with this job. But I do know that I will do the best for my patients, and I hope I win more than I lose. A little bit of background information for this next interview question that I've chosen for this video. A DNR, or do not resuscitate, is drastically different from a patient's death. We usually view as a patient's death as being, a patient who has died due to their injuries or the medical condition they have, and we are just unable to resuscitate them. A DNR is an order, as you probably know, from a patient who has declared that their quality of life is at that point where they do not want to continue. So if they happen to go into cardiac arrest naturally, or even if their health is declining, so they're unable to swallow, they're unable to breathe on their own, they don't want help, they just want to pass. And we view that very differently just because there's a lot more complications surrounding DNR. Family, if a DNR is issued, family can remove that DNR, so the family can request that resuscitation occurs, and thus we have to follow the orders of the family, so we disregard the wishes of the patient and disregard the DNR, and then perform resuscitation, and often taking them to the hospital, doing CPR, that sort of thing. Also with DNRs, it can just be that no more feeding, no feeding through a feeding tube, no breathing for them, and just watching that happen. And that process can take time. So it's often very difficult for the family, and it's often an interview question that is asked separately from handling death, whereas one can happen immediately and is very traumatic. Another one, we can only be part of the process sometimes, where we just do the transfer to the hospital and the patient dies later. So it is a question that I wanted to address as part of this video, just being that second question. We are given specific training in school on how to handle DNRs with the family, especially if the death or the dying is occurring at home. So family often finds this very traumatic, despite any conversations that have been had previously or any training that they've had. They want their family to live. And while that is very human and it's very emotional and it's very natural, it's also not what the patient wants. So often this has to be handled very delicately. I find the most important thing is to remember that and to remind the family that these were the patient's wishes. This is what the patient wanted, and this isn't the kind of quality of life that they want to continue living. When the patient does die, or in the event that the patient dies, we have to be shown that DNR. And it's one thing that I like to go over, or I would remember to go over with the family and just say, this is what your mother wanted, or your father. This is the DNR. So at this time, we're going to stop our attempts to resuscitate them. You may say goodbye, just allowing them that closure and that a chance to say goodbye to their family member. That's really important to me for the family, and as someone who just lost her grandmother, it was really important for me to be there when she passed and to say goodbye. And it was also very hard for me as a first responder to heed the DNR myself and to actually allow the process to continue. Part of me, all I wanted to do was start CPR and bring her back, but I had to keep reminding myself that she wasn't living, she was just alive. And that little distinction is just so important. So in the event of a DNR, I definitely would take the time to talk to the family and take some time. And it's not a rush, it's not a race, and just allow them to come to terms with it themselves. In the event of a family member protesting the DNR, I definitely would do every attempt to delicately remind them that this isn't about them. This is about their parents or their loved one. And try to help them see that bringing them back isn't the best way to go. But if they're insistent, then I will do everything that I possibly can to bring that patient back. Every DNR effort, or sorry, not DNR, CPR effort, every resuscitation assessment that I can do will be performed to save that patient. But I would continue to encourage the patient to remember that this is a DNR and that this is what the patient would want. It is a tough situation, and it's one thing that I hope won't happen very often in my line of work, but I am reconciled to the fact that I will come across it. I'm one of those people that has many different backup plans. I always have thoughts of where I can take my career and where I can go with the training I have. At this point in my life, 5 years down the line, I'm hoping to be working as a full-time paramedic and hopefully with a local service like Wellington. If that were unable to happen, I definitely would consider the Coast Guard. It is something that I have always thought of as kind of a backup plan or something that was always there. I applied for it when I was 18, and it was a very complicated situation, but I ultimately decided to go and do my paramedic instead. But they did encourage me that having those skills as a paramedic would greatly increase my chances for a job, but also make the job more interesting and become a different type of Coast Guard. I would be more of the medic instead of a patroller or the Coast Guardian. So that has always been an option for me. I do like traveling, I do like seeing others, but that need to help and to protect and to serve people and my country has always been extremely strong with me. So if paramedic were not to work out, then I definitely could possibly see myself pursuing a career in the military as a military medic, or working as a paramedic abroad like Doctors Without Borders. In any avenue, I can definitely for sure say in 5 years, I'll be giving back to others, working with the community, and doing my best to ensure that others have the best quality of life and the best possibility of life that they could ever have. Hi, Heather. This is Brooke. I hope you enjoyed your watching this interview as much as I kind of enjoyed making it. I've always loved making videos and stuff, so this was kind of right up my alley, and I had to be careful not to go too overboard. I hope you enjoyed the semester and the assignments that I've given you, as well as my discussion board answers, as much as I've actually enjoyed doing the projects and the discussion board myself. I found your sessions at the beginning of the semester really helpful and informative, especially for doing those first couple assignments. And although I'm sorry to hear that you're having some health issues, I do hope that you end up being safe and healthy and happy to enjoy the rest of your summer. I know I have one more assignment to go, but I figured this would be a good place to do a little bit of a thank you video and just let you know how much I appreciated your help with job interviews, as well as some help in terms of like my job application process. I did learn some things I kind of already knew, but that's all right. That's part of the job. And again, I hope you have a great summer, and I hope you keep on teaching. Enjoy, your student, Brooke Finney.